All right. Hey, Reed.
Hey, Wolf.
How are you today?
I'm vertical another day.
That's good. Me too.
Looking forward to learning something. What are we doing?
Well, today we're going to talk about some breath work, and I call it the sun breath work. And it's connected to the idea of knowing what happens when we have like a little campfire, and thinking about your brain as a little campfire.
Okay.
And
sun
how
breath.
to do that. Yeah.
Okay. So why would I do sun breath? What's it gonna?
So there's two parts to this. One is that the first part is that what you're going to do is you're going to learn to breathe to be able to calm your mind down. And there's lots of different breath works. There's 4 square breath work, and there's various breath works that have numbers associated with it. But this doesn't really have a number. It really has to do with understanding what happens to your brain when you either breathe in really fast, breathe in really slow, short breaths, long breaths. So we're going to explore that.
Okay, cool.
All right?
Yeah.
So you want to get started?
Yeah, let's get started.
All right. Okay, so the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to think about our brain as a little campfire. So now one of the things that we know is that with a campfire, when you have a low campfire, you need more fire, you get down and you breathe oxygen on it. And that makes the fire bigger. The other thing we know is that if you have a big fire and you take the oxygen away, then what happens is the fire gets calmer. So I just want everybody to start to think about your brain as a little campfire. So to start with, we're going to talk about your brain being a large fire. And the times that your brain is a large fire in that context is when you're struggling, when you have some anxiety, when you're stressed out. And what we're trying to do is calm our brains down to get us into a better calming space. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take the oxygen away from my brain. So to start with, what we're going to do is we're just going to take a nice breath in, just through our nose, just a regular breath. And then as we breathe out, I want you to control it, and so that the breath coming out is longer than the breath going in. And from that point, what I'm doing is taking the oxygen really away from my brain. There's a misconception that deep breaths actually help calm your brain, and in reality, they speed your brain up. So we want to take the oxygen away from the fire. I want you to consider taking it away from the fire. So we're just going to take a nice deep breath in. And then as we breathe out, we're going to go longer. Now, one of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to, at the very end, you don't want to breathe out so far that you go trying to get another breath in.
Okay.
Right? And we're going to do this 4 times.
Okay.
So it's shorter breath in, breath out. And one of the things that happens is that when you're breathing out, if you make that little ha sound like I was doing, and again, you're not going to where you're out of breath, that ha sound helps you regulate what your breath is doing. It's called an ocean sound, right? So you kind of like the wave. Okay.
Got our sun breath and our ocean
breath, right? Yeah.
Okay.
And so we're still identifying with fire, but in the next breath that I teach you is going to be the more fired breath, and we're going to use that when we're tired, right?
Okay.
We don't have any energy, so
it's not a short breath, but a shorter breath in.
Yeah.
Still like low diaphragm, or is this upper?
Low diaphragm. So you extend. So most breath work, you extend your stomach out first, and then you bring your chest up, right?
Okay.
So you breathe in through your stomach. You don't really breathe in through your stomach. You breathe in through your lungs, into your lower diaphragm.
Yeah.
And then you expand your chest out. And then, but it's just, so there's some breath work that's like a 4, 7, 8 count, right? And the difference with this one is that we're not really holding it for that extra time. So the 4 is still the same. We're not really holding it in the middle, but our breath out is whatever you're comfortable with. And the reason that there's no number is I do breath work all the time. I can go a long time breathing out. Some people are going to get, a shorter breath, but you want to have a longer breath out.
And with it being like a sun breath, we're thinking of our campfire. Fires burn differently in different conditions. Like my brain fires may be different than your brain fire, so it's going to need different breaths.
A little bit.
To bring it up or bring it down.
Right. But we want to think about when we have anxiety or we're stressed out that the fire is big. And what we want to do is we're trying to take the oxygen away.
Okay.
Okay? So let's try it 4 times.
Let's try it.
Okay? So we're going to breathe in and out. And in and out. Again. And last one. And then just return to your regular breath. How do you feel?
That's really cool. So like when we were talking about it and sort of starting to just settle me with it, like the idea of sun breathing, I, like you said, like ran out of breath and then had to, but then during those 4 breaths that we just did, especially after thinking about feel my low diaphragm, and then instead of breathing out from my low diaphragm, bringing it up into my chest and then breathing it out, made it so much easier to control that breath and be in tune with the breath and visualize my little campfire.
And that's why it's important to start with, to be able to make that sound, because that helps you understand what your breath is doing, right? The other thing is when any breath work, if you haven't done breath work before, people always say, oh, I'm getting lightheaded. Well, that's normal until your brain has the understanding, because normally our brains don't have enough oxygen in general. And so when I start doing breath work, my brain is like, oh my God, what is this? I haven't had this before, right? And so after a while, it settles in. The other thing is that when you do it, and again, you know, we're kind of sitting in these chairs. You want to make sure your back's straight. You want to be sitting up. So let me just demonstrate. After a while, you can really go long on that exterior breath, right? So. So you learn how to be able to control that diaphragm, the breath, the whole bit, you know, and it really does. It calms. So after a while, you start with a good number to start with. The practice is 4, like we did, and then after a while, if you get to where you extend your breath out longer, it's calming your brain down. It's taking the oxygen away from the fire. You might only need to do 1 to get it calmed down, right? But you have to be able to get that extension of that breath coming out.
So what happens when I see my fire becoming coals? You know, and being conscious of that. and then using another breath technique I guess we'll try here in a second.
Right.
But before we move on to that, something you said in the intro when you were introducing this idea was that, and I identified with it, was that we think, less oxygen calms us down.
Right.
The less oxygen, does that engage our like fight or flight, or our like a drowning kind of feeling, or why would it not calm us down?
So when you take a big breath in, so think about a fire, right? So if I have a little fire going, okay, and I take a deep breath and I go on the fire,
then the
fire is going to be bigger. So the fire is my brain. I put a lot of oxygen in, the fire gets bigger. I have a big fire, I take the oxygen away, the fire gets smaller.
Got it.
It's exactly the same. We don't think about our brain like it's this little fiery object, right? But that in reality is what happens.
Okay.
And so some of the other breath work, like the 4 square and everything, what you're doing is you're balancing the fire out. So it's not out of control, it's not all the way down to coals, it's not too high. This is really around, I'm really feeling anxious, I really get a lot of stress, and so I've got to get that oxygen out of my brain. That's when the fire is really big.
Got
right? It. Versus I'm just feeling a little bit, or I'm trying to get to sleep, I want to calm down. That's where 4 square breathing comes in really well.
So 4 square is more of like balancing. When I'm feeling okay, I just need to ground.
Right.
And then sun breathing is like lifting me up when I'm feeling sluggish.
Right.
And then the ocean breathing is calming me down when I'm feeling anxious or... Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to reverse that.
All right.
In the idea that, okay, so I've got a little campfire, my coals are almost out. How would you get your campfire going if that was the case?
I would guess based
on what I just heard. Besides throwing gasoline on it.
I guess like based on what I just heard would like give it more air. Right. Now, do I need to do that like...
Exactly.
Exactly like that.
So if you've got a campfire, you get right close down to the bottom of it, and you go, and it puffs, and then you get a good fire going, right?
Right.
So I've just had a great meal at Pavillon. Okay, lunch, 1 o'clock's rolling around. I got to sit in a group. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like starting to wear down. Yeah. So what I want to do is I want to do that more. Breath. So you reverse that to where what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a breath in, but then at the top I'm going to hit it with more air. So like if I was blowing on the fire, okay, and that's kind of what we're going to do. So we're going to breathe in again.
So the extra breath is on the exhale, not the inhale.
Right.
It's not a. It's a.
No, it's inhaling. I might have had that. Yeah, so it's like, well, let me just demonstrate for once.
Okay,
so like, shorter breath out. Now, after a while, you can do this without making all this noise. I'm kind of making the noise so you can understand
so we can learn.
Right.
Okay.
So what you want to do, and we're going to do this a few more times than the 4. We're going to do it 7 or 8. Okay.
Okay.
Let's do that. And then I want you to feel it. Now, this is the one that really can get you a little bit lightheaded. Okay. But you'll feel a tingle. You'll start to feel the energy. You'll start to feel waking up. So you're going to take a nice deep breath in at the very top. You're going to, and then out less than what you breathed in. So longer breath in, hit it at the top. Yeah, and then out shorter. So, all right, you ready? Let's do it together. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Two more. Now just let yourself feel that. Again, you might have a little buzz going. So this is a little bit more like what they call fire breathing, which is a practice that's in various yoga practices and stuff.
Mm-hmm. So it's like fire breathing? What's the difference?
So the other one is, so There are different practices around breath work. So you hear in breath work around yoga, breathing in through your nose, breathing in and out through your nose. Like in and out through your nose.
Okay.
In some Tibetan styles of breath work, in martial arts breath work, there's a lot more breathing in through your nose and breathing out through your mouth.
Right.
So that's one difference, right? And so breath work would be like a fire breath work. In yoga would be more of
okay.
Yeah. So they see the difference there versus
This is more circular. Tibetan, you said?
No, this comes out of Tai Chi. This comes out of Taoism. Yeah, this is a Taoist breath work. Yeah.
As opposed to.
Yeah. Cool. Does completely different. So.
Man, that's a lot of things to sort of digest.
Right.
So we talked about like thinking of sun breathing, your mind as a fire, how much oxygen does it need, square breathing sort of being a level grounding kind of place.
Right.
The sun breathing or the fire breathing in and out through the nose, or the Tai Chi?
Tai Chi. Yeah, Taoism. Yeah, so Tai Chi comes
the more
out of
circular, double through the nose, quick out, exhale through the mouth, being to add oxygen, lift the flame.
Right.
And then the short in through the nose, long ocean breathing out to bring the flames down.
And the other reason that we call it ocean breathing is because you make that ha sound, kind of like the surf, right? Yeah. But the biggest thing to keep in mind is just remembering that your brain, when it's functioning okay, it's just a regular little normal fire. But I get stressed, I get anxious, the fire's bigger, I need to take the oxygen away. My fire is low, I need to give it more oxygen. And so if you can just keep that metaphor going with regards to that part of your brain, then that's how the best way to remember it. And again, then you can also, once you practice and you get the breath work, so you're stressed, you're at Walmart, it's Good Friday, or Black Friday or whatever. As you can tell, I don't go shopping on Black Friday. I don't even name it, right? But, so I can just be standing there and I can be going, So I'm letting the air out, nice and slow and calm. I'm just not making that air sound.
Right.
After a period of time, you can do it where you're not making all the noise. But it helps to make the noise to start with, because then you have this hearing sense of what your breath really is doing.
Right.
And a lot of people, what they'll find when they do that slow breath out, will go, as they're breathing out at beginning of breath work,
yeah, you can feel the choppy.
Yeah, it's choppy because
But it's easier to hear than to feel.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So,
any last minute, words of wisdom to wrap all this up for me?
yeah. So the biggest thing would be to understand that your breath is your life force.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't have your breath, you don't have to do any of this. Right? You have no life force. Your breath is your life force. And so what am I doing with my life force, right? Understanding when I breathe in, we never think about breathing. We just go through the day, never think about breathing. But yet, it's literally the thing that's keeping us alive. You can go a long time without food, a long time without water. You can't go very long without breath. So we should pay attention to what is our breath doing. How do we control our breath? How does it make our body feel? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And if you study practices like yoga, Tai Chi, various forms of martial arts, like really traditional stuff, not even American karate kind of thing, they teach you a little bit, not so much, but traditional styles like that around, from the East especially, one of the things that they do is that they teach you how to breathe. That's all the practice. If you go over to India and you decide you want to practice and learn traditional yoga practices, the first thing they do before you ever get into downward dog is they're going to say, "Oh, you're from the West. You don't know how to breathe. Let's spend the next 6 months learning how to breathe." Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Great.
See you next time.
All right. Bye.